Just a follow-up question from both you, starting with Ms. Hogan. We talked earlier about the budget crisis that the state has. Is this an issue the state just has to be able to spend money on, has to be willing to spend money on, or are your solutions not necessarily going to cost more state spending? And we'll start with you.
Well, first, when bringing up a good point, when we talk about the Medicaid state plan, that's an amendment. We need to do an amendment to the plan. There's a lot of services that could be covered that aren't covered, that have been bantied about with nonprofit providers. We're very grant dependent when we talk about social services. When we talk about people with mental health issues, it's usually X amount of dollar per person that the state pays year after year after year. It's grant payments to third-party contractors, nonprofits to do it. We're moving away from that, and that's going to be kind of unveiled, because what we need to do is expand the use of Medicaid dollars and Medicare, what can be charged for. So case management services to someone in the community, whether it's for drug dependency or whether it's mental health, is not taking state grant money, the 100%. It's starting to slide down to 50%. And what they do in the medical world, third-party billing, is what is happening in the nonprofit world. So what we hope to see is that the money that's being spent year after year for grants for social services will actually go down. And will there have to be some input somehow? Yes. It could be the restoration of some of the budget cuts that were there, or we need to at least maintain the level of funding that we have now in our social services, because the nonprofit provider is very resilient. They have a way of networking. They have the coordinated care access. They have the continuum of care, and everybody works together. What they would need is just support to allow them to continue to that great work that they do, and they will make that easier transition to take care of it. So it could cost some money for the state, but in the long run, it's saving tons of money of emergency room visits, of incarcerations, of institutionalized care that we all bear if we were to hit the ground more in the preventative and get it running. So you're making a short-term investment for a very long-term gain.
And Mrs. Cheeseman, if you could comment on the budgetary implications
Sure.
of dealing with this crisis.
I certainly agree that additional money that might be spent would have big savings in the longer run, with those reduced emergency room admissions, reduced burden on our local police, first responders. But I would also say, let's look at where we're spending money and save it. We just spent $2 million on the Connecticut Tennis Center in New Haven that offers one competition a year. I love animals, but why the Beardsley Zoo gets $1 million a year just because John Rowland made a deal with Joe Gannon back then? I thought we weren't supposed to support zoos. There is so much money that this state is spending on non-essentials. Let's spend it where it's going to make a difference, like saving our children.
Thank you.